Hi, I'm Pat Gelsinger. Welcome to America's vForum Online Spring 2020. And today's event is especially designed to be able to update you on all the latest VMware technologies, the things that we're working on, connect you with our experts, and be able to have great interactions with them. And before we get started, I wanted to remind you to submit your questions in the Q&A found in the lower half of your screen, and be able to interact with us all during this vForum session that we have today. So thank you again for joining. It's a great pleasure to be here. But obviously, business just isn't the same. And, I began the year getting started. I always start with strong New Year's resolutions. Was ready to jump into the year. Then I actually had a ski accident, hurt my knee, took a little bit of a vacation to Antarctica, a very cool place, and then came back to get started, and COVID. Whoa, everything has changed so dramatically and so quickly. We'll simply say these are unprecedented times, and it's not just that we're going through this moment, but on the other side of it, things will change. We have to think about this not as a moment that we're going to get through, but how will this permanently change how we work, how we learn, how we live in community with each other, how we connect, play, worship. Every aspect of that is going to change. But first, we need to get through it. And with that, we'll say, each of us must be engaging and caring for each other as never before with empathy, support. Also, this idea of mobile distributed workforces, and we're seeing an extraordinary set of our customers stepping up to say, I used to have a few hundred people working remotely. I need immediately thousands working, and there is no choice. And in many respects, this is driving, I'll say, digital transformation and change at a pace. Projects that might have been 6 or 12 months, now they're happening in a weekend. And this, we believe, will have this exponential impact on accelerating what we do. And in many respects, it is a crisis, but it also creates opportunities to accelerate customers, industries, entire categories of people being able to benefit from digital transformation more rapidly than ever before. We're working closely with customers across the industry, customers in healthcare. Clearly, how do we enable them to do their jobs better and setting up, remote telemedicine environments, being able to have, pop-up extensions of tents for hospitals, being able to turn the parking lots into new hospital wings almost overnight. They require bandwidth, remote connectivity, and virtual desktop and mobile workforces. Finance, that critical economic infrastructure. Governments globally, all of a sudden, the only way they can support citizens is by working remotely. And you're seeing every one of these segments of the industry moving faster than ever before. And clearly, some of our solutions like Workspace ONE and SD-WAN and Carbon Black and VMware Cloud, these cloud-driven digital workforces, remote mobile environments are more critical than ever before. And we are engaging in many of these with you to make these projects happen literally overnight. The VMware Vision is this picture that we've been refining consistently, and every year it's been on the same journey of any cloud, any app, any device. But every year we're refining and improving it and adding and tweaking to match our strategy, but also to better align with where the industry is going. But this idea of build, run, manage, connect, and protect any app on any cloud for any device is clearly resonating with where the industry is going. And out of that, we said, we have these powerful offerings, and they align so well with this picture. Building a virtual cloud network, how customers take advantage of multi-cloud, the modernization of their application environments, being able to deliver that through the digital workspace, and then this powerful idea of intrinsic security. And this picture really summarizes the VMware value proposition, the portfolio that we would have. And if there's one picture I would ask you to remember, this is the one. right? Seeing how these pieces fit together, how Tanzu and app modernization builds on and leverages everything we're doing for multi-cloud and VMware Cloud. And then the delivery vehicle, Workspace ONE, the intrinsic security built into the platform, and finally, the virtual cloud network. And this will sort of provide our agenda for the rest of our discussion this morning. Let's start with app modernization. We're in an environment where do the CIO and the line of business, do they always agree? And in fact, we found many cases where this idea of coming together to have the business priorities are really supported by both these communities. And even though they're often apart, what do we see drawing them together? The shared understanding that the app and device experience is what defines the customer and the employee experience, and that creates competitive advantage as never before. And this progression of how do we support and create competitive advantage, a shared goal of line of business and CIO. And for that, there's this comprehensive look of how does the whole portfolio come together? How do all of the pieces fit together? We believe everybody needs to go on this journey of saying, I need to look at my app portfolio, and against that portfolio, then I need to do these things. I need to refactor or build new applications. I need to re-platform. I need to rehost or repatriate from the cloud. I need to build on and retain certain assets. And there's those that I need to find ways to retire and move beyond. And against this, VMware has a portfolio of solutions that enables you to do all five. Start with the app portfolio and then apply our solutions to each one of these five areas, because everyone needs to be employed by every customer as they look at their portfolio of applications. Multi-cloud. Every customer agrees that they need to modernize their data centers. They need to go from bespoke and old architectures to a modern cloud-like data center experience. But they also need to be able to connect that up to the public clouds. They need to be able to take advantage of these powerful cloud resources, but do so in a way that gives them multi-cloud, so they have choice and don't have lock-in in their environment. And then building out to telco and edge, a true multi-cloud view of the future. And VMware is uniquely positioned to help accomplish that. Clearly, the early days of the cloud wars have been, this gold rush that everything needs to be delivered in the cloud. But out of that, we believe Amazon and Azure have emerged as a powerful driving force. We've built deep relationships with each one of them, but we've also have strong partnerships with Google, Alibaba, IBM, and Oracle, all building on and bringing VMware-based offerings. Our VCPP partners, the VMware Cloud Provider Program, continues to be resilient, and providers across the globe in their unique geographic or vertical requirements leveraging that. And finally, VMware Cloud on-premise on Dell EMC, VxRail. And if I could look at those, we'd say, boy, if we had those three offerings successfully being delivered to every customer, Amazon, Azure, and Dell Cloud, the three-legged stool, as I like to call it. And all of that, a common foundation of VMware Cloud. And that provides the common networking, compute, storage, management, automation, lifecycle that is enabled across all of those solutions. But as we discuss with customers, all of them want to go to a multi-cloud world. But how do they get there? Right? Nobody wants to be building the next IBM lock-in or the challenge that they're only building on one set of services. How do I enable that multi-cloud future? The simple answer is VMware Cloud. And for that, we're progressing to enable this common technology base on every mega cloud, every data center, and connect them up in a unique and powerful way. And for that, we see these three alternatives. Customer managed, where we give them VMware Cloud Foundation, and they run the software. VMware managed, and this is the unique partnership with the Amazon and AWS offering, or VMware Cloud on Dell EMC on-premise, or partner managed. And this is the breadth and strength of the VMware Cloud Provider Program. Simply put, VMware Cloud Foundation is the foundation for the hybrid cloud. Next, intrinsic security. And every year, different surveys are done by CIOs and analysts. What topics are most on CIOs' mind? And every year for the last decade, security always ends up being on the top 3, 4, or 5 of every CIO survey. So it's of paramount importance to both the CIO, but also a line of business. But unfortunately, this has been a difficult topic, one that customers have struggled with. And we believe we need a redo of how we think about security. Applications need to be born secure, with security built into every aspect of the application design. But then that application needs to live secure on secure, intrinsically secure infrastructure. And this idea of zero trust security has been well known in the industry for many years, but it's been elusive and impossible to implement because each member of the security shared responsibility team for a company, they have their own piece of the puzzle. And each one of them is then difficult to, how do you connect all those pieces together? How do you make them work consistently? And we find most of our customers have maybe 100 different security products. How do you make all those pieces fit together and work? And against that, we say the simple view of intrinsic security, where the majority of the security challenges are dealt with by integrated capabilities, integrated directly into the platform. And this is what we mean by intrinsic security in the run environments, in the networking, in the end user compute, bound together by consistent cloud analytics and telemetry. This is what intrinsic security is all about. And this is what Carbon Black is delivering as part of VMware, being able to build and deliver intrinsic security. And next, the digital workspace. And if there's one area that has just exploded as a result of COVID, this is the one. Because immediately people go from having maybe 5% of their workforce working remotely to having 95% of the workforce working remotely. And we needed to rapidly and quickly move in to say, yes, we can allow you to scale up. One of the big financial customers, they had maybe 15,000 virtual desktops established, and we had labored for 9 months to go group by group up and running. In 3 days, they went to 100,000 virtual desktops because they had no other choice. When we were looking to do our virtual sales, our sales kickoff this year, we were planning on physical events in Las Vegas and Singapore and in Barcelona. The Friday before our Vegas event, we decided to go virtual. So literally, we flipped to a virtual sales kickoff with 15,000 people in 3 days. And it came off without a hitch. We're seeing these stories across the industry of people being able to flip to virtual almost overnight, enable fully distributed workforces. But those devices need to be secured, managed, connected, automated. And that's exactly what Workspace ONE does. It brings this ease, the simplicity, and the scale, but still delivering enterprise security and management capabilities. This is the workforce of the future. And by the way, I don't think we ever go back. We'll look forward to the day where all of us can be back into our office settings, but we believe that companies will now be far more distributed and remote workforce than ever before. And the virtual cloud network. When we acquired Nicira 7 years ago, it was sort of the shot heard around the world of the networking industry. And we said, we're going to move all networking functions into software. Well, here we are 7 years later, and it's done. Every aspect of the core networking services that businesses want, need, and build their operations on, are now being done in software. Switching, routing, firewall, load balancing, service mesh, making that part of the container environment, and then extending it across the WAN to every branch and every environment. This is now the NSX platform, the complete portfolio for a software-defined networking world, the ability to eliminate all of that complex, expensive, power-consuming hardware and move all functions into software. NSX is now the most complete networking platform in the industry, and we're excited to see the momentum that we're seeing in the different elements of this, but let's take the whole solution, the full NSX platform. So this picture then summarizes the entire framework that VMware is on: app modernization, multi-cloud, digital workspace, intrinsic security, and virtual cloud network. And we believe, taken together as we integrate, validate, test, scale, operationalize, lifecycle, this solution provides this unique and powerful digital foundation for every aspect of what enterprises and businesses do. Now, not only do we need to create the best products, make you successful as our customers, but we also deeply believe we have to do the right things. And you want to know, are the companies that I'm working with, that I'm committing my future to, are they good companies that are committed to the right thing? And this is exactly where our culture and values are so powerful and important to what we do at VMware. We simply believe tech must be a force for good, where technology, for the most part, is neutral. Could be good, could be bad. And we have to be shaping it every day for good to improve the planet that we're part of, to be able to solve pandemics, to be able to enable education and food supplies on a global basis. This is what we are committed to. And we're off to do this in our company, in the communities that we're part of, through our customers, and in every other dimension that we can provide influence, direction for the industry. Because we truly believe that our global impact is far greater. And clearly, we have to make a really good product. And my view is, if our product is 10% better than another product, it's a lousy product. Our job is to make products 10x better than the alternatives. But that isn't enough. We need customers that trust and are building their entire enterprise future on us. The product can't just be good. It has to be enabling you to trust in us to build every aspect of your business on that platform. Clearly, we want to be a great place to work. We want to be a great company to partner with. But again, we do not believe that that itself is sufficient anymore. We have to build a truly inclusive environment, one where our people and our partners can bring their entire self to the problems, to the teams, to the products and solutions that we build and deploy. And finally, we want to be a great place for the planet, a healthy planet. But again, we don't think that's enough. And we believe that fundamentally we have to turn the clock back and begin the process of decarbonizing our planet, where truly it isn't just about reducing emissions, but truly going to net zero, and then being able to even go further and leveraging technology to truly solve our global climate crisis as well. Taken together, we believe that as a company, as a community, as an industry, we truly can have a global impact. We thank you for the time today and joining us for our vForum online. It really has been a joy to be partnering with you and being in this unique strategic relationship with many of you now for many years. We're looking forward to the rest of our update today. And thank you again just for being a customer, partner, and friend to VMware. Thank you so much as we're on this journey to build the digital infrastructure that enables your digital transformation to go faster and better than ever before. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Pat. Well, my name is Sumit Dhawan. I'm the Chief Customer Experience Officer for VMware. Now, this year, 2020, has changed the definition of work forever for many organizations. And so many of us have proven to ourselves that work is what you do, not where you go. And remote working or working from home is certainly not a new concept, but every responsible organization is now asking itself how a more distributed workforce strategy can build a more resilient and competitive organization. In addition, just the business resiliency for us and what we need to do to serve our customers and handle our supply chain in a different way is a topic for all of us. This is what I'm speaking with across all of our customers, and this is what I'm dealing with my team as I make sure that my team is able to deliver the same experience to all of our customers. So, in this pandemic, where we have hundreds of countries and millions of citizens getting impacted, we know that the life and blood of any company is our employees. And employee well-being has been across our customers' number one goal. And for me and for my team, we kept that as our number one goal to make sure that all of those people that work at VMware can deliver a great experience to our customers. Now, to do so, we have had many, many customers. Here is one of them. Customers who have made investment in a digital workspace strategy are helping to make sure that when they're delivering a solution for their workforce, they're able to provide continuity for their business. We have had stories like this across healthcare, education, banks, as well as many, many agencies that are now doing all the hard work in making sure that services that are critical for our citizens are getting delivered in a continuous fashion. So clearly, putting employees first has taken on a new meaning in crisis as managers have been forced to think about their employees in the context of their individual situations as family members, caregivers, and members of communities beyond the office walls that have to be managed with flexibility and trust. Now, work from home has always been a powerful tool. There have been many, many, many studies done by many companies. Here's what some stats that you can see clearly show that it provides better productivity, higher performance and engagement by employees, better retention, and at the end of the day, for every business that truly get measured through financial metrics, better profitability. Yet, even though we have changed many customers and helped hundreds of customers respond to the work from home, still the meaning of work from home takes on a different definition. Here's why. Here's what I learned. Even with my own experience, I would say I am not a work from home for a long, long period of time kind of a person. When I had something I had to do, I would classify myself into the, on the go pro, where I would go meet with the team. Or if I had some project to solve, I would say, let's wait until next week or 2 weeks from now so we could get around a whiteboard, collaborate, and solve a problem. In other words, people had their work styles where working from home was just a small part of how they did the work. Well, what we have learned from this experience is that work from home or remote work truly makes us exercise muscles as employees and do a lot more than what we had originally designed our solutions for or imagined and experienced for across different types of employees. That's what we are learning from customers as well. So, while the first and the immediate priority for customers was how do they very, very quickly wire up an infrastructure that gives them ability for employees to work from home, what we are learning is that this has created some experiences for employees as well as businesses where there is definitely a question of will there be an opportunity where people would be able to do a lot more work remote or from home? Will this become the new norm? So, in that case, let's think through what we did as quick and dirty, what many of our customers did as quick and dirty, where you just turn into, what you had very, very quickly for the customers. Is that good or bad? Okay. There is multiple ways to look at the solution. Okay, here. There are physical elements, there are cultural elements, and there are technological elements. We went through that for our team as well. Now, my team, most of them are frontline employees who are serving and helping our customers. They have a certain work style where they work with certain ergonomics. If they are people that are designed to do a more support centric function, or if there are people who are at customer sites and are performing services, they have a certain physical workplace definition. There's a cultural element on how cultural and policies and process element on how our people are used to engaging in small group meetings to make sure that they're learning from each other and providing practices around it. And then of course the technology assists both in terms of workplace as well as the culture by defining the workspace and then support experience for the employees. But if you think about it, the technology actually enables that physical and cultural workplace experience as you shift to the new work from home experience. Technology plays a much, much bigger role. The digital technologies as well as the digital experience truly enables the right workplace as well as the right work culture to make sure that people are most productive and give the best possible experience to the customers. We did that for our employees, where we enabled a workspace experience for them to be able to collaborate in a mechanism that was over virtual session rather than physical environment and create the similar but different cultural norms. Similarly, on the physical end, we created an experience for them so that they could still serve our customers, but from home through, again, the technology that makes the physical aspect of their workplace much more flexible. In other words, technology plays a big role. Okay. Now, how can IT support the new reality? Now, the reality is it comes down to three things, and that's what we have enabled in our solution, Workspace ONE. Workspace ONE truly helps any of the business critical applications and desktops available on any device. That's the first and the foundational part for an employee to be able to be productive. But then you need to be able to support the customers and the employees in an easy way with our assist technologies that are built in within our solutions. Our support teams are able to assist employees, whether it's a new onboarded employee, which we brought onto our team, or existing employees when they have issues. The assist technology is enabled to support and handle issues quickly. And finally, a self-service experience is needed for employees to be able to do things by themselves through digital technologies rather than relying upon more sort of people-centric help that can be available in a physical environment. At VMware, we were extremely lucky. We already had our systems built in, and my team, for example, which is in frontline, helping the customers, were able to be up and running quickly. And similarly, we have hundreds of our customers that were able to very, very quickly expand their infrastructure for tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of their employees and get them productive and fully functional in a remote from work environment. So that's great. That's a starting point. But if you think about this quick reaction, what happens going forward? Really, the remote first, if you step back and think about where you're making these, your workforce productive, you really have to think about multiple aspects. How you're going to get your support model, your communication model, how you would analyze things in terms of the experience of the employees, what would your help desk look like, how you would provide the tools and the videos and the documentation to them. So one of the big elements that we are learning as we're talking to customers is that this is about thinking differently. This is about thinking holistically and not thinking about remote workplace or workspace environment as something that's bolted on and added on to several technologies, instead thinking about it as a complete solution. And that's what we have sort of seen, where this sort of comes in across three phases. You get quick speed, stabilized work from home infrastructure. Get that environment with the three steps that I laid out. Secondly, you look at what are you going to do for your, the cloud-based operations, because that gives you scale. How would you look at your network capacity and scale your security? Because really, you have to think about how you're going to do your security of your environment across your network as well as at the endpoint. Okay. This will truly give you the required scale and resiliency of your solution. Stabilize first, get the quick agility, which hopefully many of you have gotten and our Workspace ONE solution can do. But then, to truly build a full vertical solution, you're going to go beyond that, beyond the digital workspace, into looking at your security of endpoints. This is where our Carbon Black cloud comes in. It provides you a very low touch way to ensure the endpoints are secure and are not vulnerable, where much of your customer information and certainly your confidential information may be sitting at this point in time when people are working from home. Expand it to make sure that you're securing and optimizing the delivery of the application to the home. Instead of thinking of branch offices, now the new branch is someone's home. How you would secure and optimize the traffic going to the people home, or your employees' homes. And then, of course, as you need capacity for running your desktop or applications, you can scale it elastically. So this is sort of how we think of our work from home solution. And that's what we are using our customers to make sure they can build this as a comprehensive platform, so that as you scale about thinking and how you're going to have a remote workforce, this is not something that's bolted on, but it's designed in as a robust and resilient platform for the future. Now, you always think about employees first, but employees are there to serve the customers and make sure that you have your supply chain seamlessly working in this new mode. In this world, there are obviously new challenges in terms of how customers are going to interact with businesses. Customers are going to interact with businesses more and more in a digital fashion. In other words, while digital was seen as something that for most customers, as I speak with, is something that was going to grow over time, and there was time to go build those skills and business models and technologies to support them, now it's critical that those turn on quickly. In fact, even for my own team, we are seeing a lot higher interaction with customers on a digital format, whether we are giving them learning and education, whether we are bringing new technologies to them and educating them about it, whether we are supporting them to be successful. So employees come first, but always to help customers. And customers can be best served in the new ways, in the digital way. As I speak with customers, I hear there is a constant challenge. They need an immediate solution, because every moment that goes by where there isn't a digital solution, it counts. There's lack in in-house expertise, especially because the technologies have just been continually evolving in making sure that there is an agile experience enabled for the developers. And there is, as a result, continuous change for production-grade infrastructure. So customers always say, as quickly as possible, new digital experiences delivered in days, not weeks. Distributed team of experts that can be leveraged, where they can streamline path to production. And then a highly automated, secure, and stable platform is the only way to do so. This is where VMware Tanzu, we recently announced this platform, not knowing about how this particular crisis is going to help many of our customers embrace this platform, agility of it, ability to use multi-cloud, as well as transformation of dev and operations together, so that you can get what you were desiring in terms of speed, a single platform, and expertise all through our technology platform, which is VMware Tanzu, as well as our expertise, which is our VMware Pivotal Labs. Together, we have now helped many government agencies which are designing solutions for helping their citizens very quickly get information, for ensuring in the medical and healthcare space, doctors are able to get information quickly or disseminate information quickly for the patient care. And we are getting clear feedback that without a solution like VMware Tanzu and VMware Pivotal Labs, it would have taken them months, not days, to bring the solution out. We're glad we are able to help the customers. And I always say that when it comes to building a resilient organization, IT in this world of enabling digital workspace as well as digital experience for customers is going to play a big role. Big role because now the technology has to think not just about tech, but also about the human needs, from employees first, customers always. As a result, rethinking the workspace definition and embracing it as a comprehensive solution, and then setting your business up for success with agility via a platform. And in both cases, we are there to help. We have done so for many customers, and we look forward to engaging with many more going forward. Well, there's a lot more for you to learn, and I'm sure you have some questions. So I'm going to hand it over to the expert panel for Q&A to follow. It's great to talk to you and look forward to meeting you in the near future.
Hello, everybody. Well, there's some great presentations from Pat and Sumit. And we wanted to continue the discussion, this time zooming in a little bit to talk about app modernization. Obviously, app modernization is a huge topic, a lot of different aspects to it, and very much top of mind for our customer base. And so in order to do this, as you can see on the screen, we wanted to have a panel of my esteemed colleagues to talk all about it. So my name is Kit Colbert. I'm the CTO for the cloud platform business at VMware. And let me ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves. Lee, let's start with you.
Great. Thank you, Kit. And my name is Lee Caswell. I'm the VP of Marketing for the HCI BU, responsible for our vSAN and storage products, and also for the VCF product, VMware Cloud Foundation, which we recently released VCF 4.
Awesome. Dormain?
Yeah, this is Dormain Drewitz, Director of Product Marketing for the Tanzu division.
And Pete?
Hi, I'm Pete Chargan. I'm responsible for vSphere product marketing.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get into it. So as you heard Pat talk about, a lot of activity happening in the modern application space. And what we wanted to do before we got into the specifics of what we're doing here at VMware, we want to talk a little bit about what's happening in the industry. Big focus for VMware is, of course, all around Kubernetes. So the first question I want to start with for the panel is, why Kubernetes? What's so special about it? What does it really bring to the table that we haven't seen before? And Dormain, maybe let's start with you.
Sure. Kubernetes is it comes at a great time when organizations are facing a lot of business pressure to modernize applications and release features faster and compete in a digital manner. And in order to do that, they need to be able to change their software. And that's not something that's been historically the main focus for getting software built, released, and then usually it does patch and maintenance from there. And now when you want to be able to release software faster, there's a number of things that you need to change. You need to address the processes around what does a release process look like? does it need to take 6 months? What are all the steps along the way? There's the architecture of the application itself. And so microservices are a pattern that allows smaller units of code that can be iterated more rapidly. But then when you start to introduce those changes, you realize you need a tremendous amount of automation to help make sure your infrastructure can keep up. And that's exactly what Kubernetes provides, because it takes a declarative approach to infrastructure. So instead of having to manually decide where and how to orchestrate all the infrastructure for an application, you can use a manifest, and then the automation can take it from there. And that's really important when you start to have a lot of microservices flying around.
Anyone else want to get in this?
And I think the real important part is this declarative state model. That's the thing that really improves the productivity of the developers. They don't have to worry so much about all the steps in order to make sure that the application stays in a known good state. It takes all that effort off of their backs and allows them to do a lot more development.
And I think while VMware hasn't historically sold to the developer, what we're seeing is the changes at the developer front, right? This is where the fastest beat rate of change is occurring. So as applications are being deployed, built, managed more quickly, we're finding that traditional three-tier architectures on-prem were just not flexible and easy enough to change to keep up with that torrid pace of new app development. And so this is how we're moving to a software-defined model. And we're finding that customers are taking their traditional VM architectures and saying, how can I extend that management now into more modern application development environments?
Yeah. And I think the other really big aspect here as well is that the industry is really standardized on Kubernetes. If you look back a few years, we saw a lot of different things in the market there. There was Mesos, Docker Swarm was another orchestrator. But really, it's been Kubernetes that's sort of pulled to the front and now has become the standard across many different companies and offerings from various vendors. And so I think because of that level of standardization, it just makes sense that, hey, let's all rally around this and make it as successful as possible. Let's try to solve a lot of these problems and do it once and do it right so that we all don't have to continually recreate the wheel.
There's just it's a good acknowledgement that there is prior art, right? All the orchestration that's I was referring to before that's implied and required for microservices there have been those who have solved it in the past, but in order to really democratize it, you do need a certain level of standardization, and doing it in open source has been an important sort of way, given that that's how a lot of developer tooling really works these days. And that's something that, to your point, Kit, like that gives us something to rally around and essentially move a lot faster.
Yep. Faster as an industry. Okay. So we have this Kubernetes foundation. So then, there's a number of options around that or above and beyond that. And so one of the big questions I see various customers grappling with is what's the right abstraction level or layer to expose to their developers? We have platform as a service, PaaS. We have container as a service, CaaS. Why would you use one or the other? Is there a right answer? And really, how should people be thinking about this and be thinking about these questions around application architecture? And Pete, maybe let's start with you this time.
Okay. So from my perspective, there are two interesting dimensions in that question. One is from hardware all the way through like serverless, with infrastructure as a service in the middle, virtual machines over closer towards straight hardware, and the more that you can abstract off from the hands of the developer, the need to get closer to the metal, the better it is, and the faster that they are able to work. The platform as a service part is something that I think Domain would be great to discuss, because there's so much more there than just the low-level infrastructure.
Yeah, plus 100 to what you said in terms of the more you can abstract away from developers, the faster they're able to go. There's a lot of benefits, particularly when you see like, okay, maybe one development team could build everything they need and tune it to exactly what they require for their application. But when you start to multiply that across so many other teams, the number of different ways that people are going to be building their containers, attaching logging and monitoring and applying their middleware, it adds so much complexity, and that makes it really hard. It can make it difficult for those developers, but it really actually makes it super hard for operations teams to then be able to go and support those applications. So the more standardization that you have further and further up the stack, then the faster patches can be applied and new versions can be rolled out, just because everything is understood and we know what's happening at more and more layers. Now, at the same time, the answer to your question, Kit, is still, it depends. It depends on the workload. There are certain workloads where you're going to want more flexibility in how different layers of the infrastructure are, arranged, if you will. And so being able to have a spectrum between a CAS layer and a PaaS layer can be very powerful, where you're able to provide as much standardization and automation as you can get away with.
I also think it's interesting how we've re-architected vSphere, right? You know, the idea that we're integrating and building Kubernetes into vSphere itself, right, has really caught the imagination of vSphere enthusiasts, right, who for years have looked at what's been integrated, right? We integrated, from the first start of a Type 1 hypervisor, right? I mean, that was an integrated architecture, right, that set the standard for the industry on performance, on resource efficiency, and on management. We've actually followed a similar, tag with a Type 1 HCI. That was the vSAN element, right? And so I always say, look carefully at what VMware is integrating, because these are the things that we think are really important to have hypervisor awareness. And so, the latest is Kubernetes integrated in a way that allows us to treat containers with all of the same services, right, that we've brought, and that these management capabilities that our current customers love, and now extends us and grows our market.
The forward-looking, in the next few years, I think it will become a standard that containers and virtual machines are both part of your compute environment. And that's why vSphere went ahead and integrated those two, so that both virtual machines and containers are first-class citizens.
Well, maybe this is where you're going, but I was going to say, not to mention that there aren't a ton of people in the world who are ear deep in Kubernetes APIs. And so the number of people who are trained and fluent in vSphere as vSphere admins, being able to empower those folks with the ability to start to manage Kubernetes and offer that to their developers is a tremendously powerful move in terms of bringing the technology to a larger population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, kind of where I was going is that, like, I see it as kind of these different levels of abstraction. And, what you talk about whether it's, bare metal or virtual machine, like both of those are hardware level abstractions. And at the other end of the spectrum, you have things like platform as a service, where it's, a very specific type of thing. And so both these are two extremes on the spectrum, but they both have different trade-offs. On the hardware level abstraction, you as an end user, as a developer, get pretty much unlimited freedom to do whatever you want. The challenge is that you don't have much support in doing that, right? There's nothing really out of the box there. You kind of got to build everything yourself. With a PaaS type model, everything's there. It all just works. It's integrated. A lot of the operational aspects are already taken care of. You kind of just submit your business logic and it's done. And so but then, the trade-off there is you're a little bit more confined. You don't have quite as many degrees of freedom as you would in a bare metal solution or virtualization solution. And so, in CAS, containers as a service kind of sits in the middle. And so, basically, you have different solutions for different problems, and it really depends on, what kind of app you got and what you need. Okay, so with that in mind, we talk a lot about, our SDDC technology, this notion of a hybrid cloud, this notion of driving consistent infrastructure, consistent operations across the board. But also, On the other hand, there's this recognition that, hey, a lot of businesses are going directly to the public cloud, running directly on, let's say, AWS or Azure. And then you need to figure out some way of managing across those very diverse environments. And so there's kind of this hybrid cloud and multi-cloud. And how should customers be thinking about these two, especially with regard to the modernization of their existing and applications as well as new applications? So Lee, let's start with you on that one.
Yeah, I generally think about talking to customers about where is their center of gravity. In other words, what part, right, are they leaning from? Because usually what's happening is you're extending from one place to another. And we have customers who are like native in the public cloud or thinking about how to go and basically work in a distributed compute environment where they need to have distributed environments, like for, whether it's IoT, edge, or just, remote sites for bandwidth, economics, or security reasons. And so that's one model. Or we have on-prem customers who are thinking, hey, I want to take advantage of the flexibility of public cloud development, modern apps development. And so I think it really starts from, where's your center of gravity? What do you want to get economic or operating leverage out of? And so what I'm finding from where I sit is we have a lot of customers who are on-prem center of gravity heavy. And they're really looking at how do I go and extend into the public cloud? And we have some very interesting ways where you can start with low risk paths of like fail over and fail back to the cloud for infrastructure. Now with modern application support in Kubernetes, now we're talking about I can open up new models about I could develop in the public cloud, deploy on-prem, or I could develop on-prem and then deploy in remote geographies. And I could distribute this based on different either performance or cost or quality of service metrics. And so that's how I'm seeing it from where, from our centric, but I'm sure Domain, for example, has maybe even a slightly different viewpoint. What do you think?
Well, I think you're spot on in terms of that center of gravity. I think of it more as the data gravity in particular. There's some teams that, for example, the Pivotal Labs group, which is, they do a lot of work with the Tanzu portfolio, helping customers adopt some of these new application patterns and infrastructure patterns. And, I can think of customers who've worked with that team where they're modernizing off of a mainframe, but that doesn't mean that they're taking everything off of a mainframe. They're taking a slice of functionality off so that they can iterate more quickly. That's really powerful, but it still has to talk to the rest of the applications and data that are supporting this mainframe application. So there's a lot of latency concerns in terms of both how that application is going to perform, as well as, how any other users are going to be able to handle like the threshold of components within that application now trying to communicate with each other. So that's a huge reason why that's going to determine like that's not going to move anytime soon. There's other factors. We're seeing a lot of customers who are eager to try out some of the, say, machine learning on-demand services that cloud providers are providing, which of course requires that there's the data there to support the machine learning models. But to be able to take advantage of that, absolutely, it's great to be able to, apply the cloud provider that you're interested in and move the application closer to that service.
Pete, any last thoughts on this one?
So I thought the Domain's comment on the data gravity is really important. You could also consider any kind of regulatory or other policy kind of considerations that you need to take into account, or even just cultural aspects about whether or not you need it to run either in a specific cloud or in your SDDC in any of the regions. You may end up having, great relationships for whatever reasons. Any of the hyperscalers, you might be able to take advantage of specific services that they have. Google is famous for their AI and ML services, for example. And so there might be lots of reasons that you would go to one location or the other, or one operating model or the other. And what we're finding is that most of our customers are going to have a pretty broad distribution of where they'll end up having all their applications and their data reside.
Yeah. So with the situation, we've seen the rise of Kubernetes, which is a great building block for a lot of what we're looking at in terms of application modernization. But as you can tell, the landscape is pretty diverse. There's questions around what's the right abstraction level to give to your developers and to use for your applications. And there's no one right answer. There's no one size fits all. You actually need to support a variety of choices. We talked a lot about, Lee mentioned a lot about location, like where do you actually want these apps running? A lot of that depends on a variety of factors in terms of, latency to whatever it is that app needs to access. There's the data gravity issues that Jermaine mentioned. And so, this is a very complex world and a lot of variables to deal with. So with that context in mind, let's shift gears and talk more specifically about how does VMware help here? And why is VMware the right place to go to help solve all these problems that we just talked about? So Pete, maybe we'll start with you for this one.
So one of the great things about VMware and the offerings that we provide is this idea of independence. You're able to have an operating environment and a model by which you can build and then deploy it in one of many, many, many different locations. And so from a location standpoint, VMware VCF, the VMware Cloud Foundation is, I think by far and away the most flexible and the broadest available. But not only is it the location where you'll end up actually deploying these, the applications and the data, but it's also the same process. It's also the same people. It's also the same security model. So there's this consistency across the entire operating model that with the new enhancements that we've delivered with VCF4 especially, provide you a cloud operating model, not only in the cloud, but also on-prem.
Yeah, I think that consistency story is really key because it helps simplify so much of the complexity that's inherent with all the options that are now available. And how do you rein that in, still be able to take advantage of a lot of the innovation that's coming through open source, coming from cloud providers, but also retain some ability to manage and control the environments that your developers are pushing code to. And so thinking about things like how many different ways do we really need to be able to build a Java app? Can we simplify that and provide some constraints that actually then free up our ability to deliver more code? Because at the end of the day, getting that code to production is the difference between what was a beautiful whiteboard about what was possible and actually affecting your business. So it's a little bit cheeky, but the prod or it didn't happen is the way that I think of what VMware can do uniquely is help customers get to production with their modern applications. So it has obviously a long tradition on the infrastructure side, but as VMware's moved up the stack with Tanzu, it's really about getting that code to production and doing so in a way that you can stay sane from an operating model.
Yeah, I recall in the early days of the hypervisor wars, right, there was this whole idea of lock-in and things like that, right? And, what's interesting, right, is as we've continued to expand the ability to support, for example, just basic from storage to HCI, on-prem into the public cloud, now with modern applications, what's happening is we're extending the enterprise resiliency that customers expect and that they rely on, and we're giving customers the degrees of freedom they're most likely to exercise. And so if you think about that future-proofing model, right, they're thinking, hey, if I'm going to go and build on-prem, I can do that responsibly because I can go and extend across hardware choices. I can extend that same consistent operating model across the hybrid cloud. And now I can think about the developer. And the developer is extremely important because one of the studies I looked at recently showed that developers now have substantial or even final say over where the applications they're developing eventually run. And if you think about new applications, they're being run or they're being developed in containers. So if you take those two things, right, it means that really we're helping the career path of our on-prem customers to start with, folks that I deal with a lot who are thinking, listen, I got to be prepared, ready, responsive to new application developers. VMware's making it possible.
Yep. One of the things that I've heard from a few of our customers is thank you very much for all these new innovations because you've made me relevant to my development team again. They're now coming to me so that they get to take advantage of these things without needing to go through the work of trying to spin it up in Azure or Amazon or one of the other hyperscalers.
There's sort of an exciting frontier for folks that have been on more of the sysadmin and infrastructure admin side. And I've seen this with the folks who've been the sort of the platform teams. And they're not just operating a platform, they're really engineering a platform for their developers. And I've seen them have just a new lease on life, right, in terms of their career. And, like what you said, Pete, it's a thank you, right? This is an opportunity to, move away from a ticket-taking culture that can start to feel mundane and really have something exciting that they're working on, especially when they start to see the results from their developers moving faster and getting code into production faster and, making patching something that is trivial and not a headache that comes every week. So I think it really is exciting to see what that's going to do for a lot of people's careers.
Yeah. And this is, I think, really the big opportunity is that while we're talking a lot about here about technology changes, obviously the biggest opportunity is really with the people, the process, the organization. And, for everyone watching, that obviously includes you as well. And so I think, from a VMware standpoint, we want to provide all these great capabilities to enable you to take that next step and to really be able to deliver value to your organization around this app modernization journey. Okay, so we're out of time here for this panel discussion, but it was a great discussion around application modernization and everything that goes into it. And as you can tell, it's a very big topic, lots of complexity there, but we at VMware have a great set of tools that can help you navigate that. But of course, as Pat mentioned, we're not just focused on application modernization. There's huge amounts of effort happening at VMware around a bunch of other topics. Things like intrinsic security, our virtual cloud networking, as well as digital workspace. And here at vForum Online, we've got a ton of additional content. So there's 38 breakouts and hands-on labs. There are experts who are live and able to answer any questions you have. So now's the time, go out, check all that stuff out, and really take advantage of all the great information here at vForum Online.